Now that we've done the hard parts of creating the underlying code, creating a cube is quite simple. We just need to make our vertices three-dimensional and create 6 sprites with their edges touching. Allow me to demonstrate. First, we add a z variable to our vertex. By going in here and float mz, set that equal to 0.0f. Now remember to change the initialization list. mz is z, and remember to add float z here. Float z. And make sure that there's a comma there. In the .cpp file next, we need to go here to our vertex attrib pointer, and we need to make this 3, as we will now be passing x, y, and z, not just x and y in. And then we need to come down here to our add sprite. We will now be adding z to this sprite, or in this instance, depth, since it treats all the z's as the same thing. And x, and then y, and then depth. So just copy that, and make sure that you get it after y, or after w in cases where it's y plus w. There we are. Next up, we need to change something down here in prepare batches, right here. In here, you see here, this, m sorting sprites 0. This should not be 0. Essentially what's happening here is every time we discover a new sprite in our list of sprites, we're supposed to be adding a new sprite batch and giving it that sprite. We aren't. We're giving it the texture from the very first sprite. So we should be doing current sprite rather than 0 here. There we are. That was actually bugging me for a while there. We should be able to add all of our 2D and 3D sprites into a single multi-sprite each, but things weren't working out, and that is why. You probably noticed that yourself if you did a little experimenting. Now we pop into our window.cpp file, where down here, where we enable blending, we are going to gl enable. We're going to gl enable gl underscore depth. I think just depth. And we are going to gl depth func for function, and we are going to use gl underscore less. Essentially, what this will do is it will order our vertices by how deep they are in the away from the camera, and it will draw the ones further away and then the ones closer on top. Now we need to pop into our vertex shader, and in here we change our vec2 to a vec3 to indicate that we are now taking in 3 variables, and we can get rid of this 0.0, which was our placeholder for our z. And now we pop finally into main, I believe. So we are going to create 5 new sprites. Oh yes, these vertices are no longer correct. We have to add a z to them. So just here, space 0.0f, comma, and just add that to everything as the third thing, just as a placeholder. Now, as I was saying, you need to add 5 more sprites to the one that's in 3D. So that would be multi-sprite, just multi-sprite. So this one here. Now, you can use Apple, but the Apple has transparent corners, meaning you wouldn't be able to, you'd be able to see through the corners of the cube and onto the back faces, which would be okay, but that's not what we're going to do. So, oh wait, these are 100, so yeah. Add sprite, multi-sprite 2, and then we use multi-sprite 2. So I'm just going to comment out everything except for our apple. So Control-Shift-S to save everything, and then let's build it and run it just to see what it looks like right now. And as you can see, the only thing visible on the screen right now is our tilted apple. So we're actually going to change the position of the 3D camera. I'm going to set it to 3, 3, and then 3. So it will be, we'll be looking at it edge on. We'll essentially be looking at the top right corner directly down. And I'm going to set these to 0.5 as I'm going to put the the cube centered at this point. In fact, we should actually probably go, say, up by 4 and to the left by 4. That way it's not quite a perfect cube. Now, here's a test for you. I am going to copy this and paste it 5 times, and then I'm going to change the X, Y, and Z coordinates so that I create 6 surfaces for the front, back, left, and right at 0 and 1, and between 0 and 1, 0, 0, 0 and 1, 1, 1 is where my cube is going to be. I'm not going to show you me doing this because it takes a bloody long time to type out, so I'm just going to copy it from my test file. What I would like you to do is copy that and work it out yourself. I'm also going to be downloading a couple of PNGs other than Apple here, just so that it's more clear when we put our cube down. So let's do that. As you can see, I've changed things. So I have red, green, blue, purple, orange, and yellow as my face names. You can see I labeled which faces they are. This is assuming that the front face is the one that's at 0, 0, 0, starting there and going to 1, 1, 0. And so this is it. You can probably see very easily where everything is. So if you just want to cheat and create the cube really quickly, you can just copy these numbers. I also set the tint back to white just so that the colors of the PNGs aren't diluted. Now we're going to build this again and run it. And you see our cube. This isn't what it's supposed to look like. The blue of my blue bottom face is the same as the background, so it looks invisible, but I don't believe it is. However, you can see the green that's supposed to be on the back face, and you can't see what's supposed to be on this face at all because it was probably put down first. The problem is that this shouldn't be GL depth, it's GL depth test. I'm a silly Billy. Let's see how this goes. And as you can see, our yellow, orange, and green faces are all facing towards the camera. And there we have it. Now it's time to do something that we should have done last time and actually use GitHub Desktop. I'm sure those of you who knew were screaming at me about what the problem was, but I didn't know and I barely use this thing at all. Let's just call this cube. We made cube. So what happened is always before this, I've had some part of my code be open in a program. However, if anything's open, then this won't properly commit, because apparently it can't commit the kind of temporary files that are created when your code is open in a separate program. But with all of this done and the commit still going through, we are done with making our cube, and we have one last thing to do before we're done with the chapter. And that is to look at our GL fog functions. This is something that the book talks about that no other tutorials I've looked at have talked about. So it's going to be a fun ride for everybody involved. With the commit ready, it's time to push to origin. That way it will be saved on the server as well as on my computer. With all that done, thank you for watching. This has been Earth Otherwise. I'll see you next time when we get foggy.